the Standard of Truth podcast, where we discuss theological, social, cultural, and political issues from a biblical perspective. I am your host, April Chapman. I wanted to do this episode because I spend a lot of time in deep thought. I am super busy, but I am constantly coming up with great ideas that oftentimes I will probably die full of ideas. As we examine the Bud Light controversy unfold, and we're all sitting on the edge of our seat watching the stocks and watching money just fly out the window in terms of the company's future financial health, one thing we cannot say is that Bud Light has not created a stir and has not gotten our attention. From all of the TikToks and social media posts, people are actually making measurable progress in making their voice heard. But as I thought about this issue, its future implications, and what it means for other companies in the marketplace, I realized, I said, you know what? We could very well sit back and make a big ruckus. We can protest. We can, pour out beer till the cows come home. We could really do that. But I thought about, what is something that many Americans who are feeling outraged and who are feeling, marginalized, what could we be doing that would be way more productive instead? And it brought me to the idea of, instead of us protesting and whining and complaining and pouring out beer and boo-hooing about it, we need to just tap into some good old American ingenuity and say, I'm not going to join them. I will just create my own space and create my own brands and companies and corporations that have values that align with mine, and then let the marketplace decide what's important and what's valuable to them. So I want to go ahead and I want to share just a few anecdotes. Listen, like I said, I am not a business strategist. However, I am an entrepreneur. I am a small business owner in this country, and I am constantly in tune to the ebbs and flows of the economy and the business world. So here are a few things that we know. Bud Light has decided to go woke. And yes, I am using woke in the term in the sense that they are embracing all things as it relates to equity, inclusion, and diversity, critical race theory, and intersectionality. That I am using it in the cultural sense, not of being aware, but I'm using it in that sense. We know that they've gone woke. They've embraced Dylan Mulvaney as their brand ambassador, and they're not the only ones that are charting down this path. We have Nike, who has also tagged Dylan Mulvaney to be their brand ambassador and has this man modeling sports bras, and he doesn't have boobs, but I digress. Then you also have Nike, who claims to be all about diversity and equity and inclusion, but yet they have one of their star athletes, who I'm going to share some information about. They have chosen to abandon women who prioritize motherhood, and they are really not concerned with, creating this level playing field and making sure that everyone feels included. Then you have, in my wheelhouse, as it relates to the church, you have the SBC. The SBC is toying with the idea of embracing egalitarianism. We know that when Saddleback Church in California decided to install and ordain female pastors to their ministerial staff, that caused quite a stir. And now they did make moves to disfellowship Saddleback from the convention, but we hear that Saddleback Church, particularly their former pastor, Rick Warren, will actually be coming to the convention this June in order to challenge that ruling. He'll be challenging that ruling in an effort to plead his case and to convince the SBC that it is right and biblical for churches to be led by women, or at least co-pastored by them. So What do all these organizations and companies they all have in common? We see that they're all embracing ideologies and cultures that for the most part are vastly different than what we in our American culture are used to. They are highlighting certain existential realities and ways that people identify themselves. They're highlighting those things as virtues that need to be celebrated. And they are hitching their wagon and taking their company's brand and brand identity alongside these ideologies. And many people, don't want to spend their monies with corporations who they feel spend more time virtue signaling than creating great products and services. So, I would argue that when there are companies that people have come to like and trust, and when people are parting with their money to support in exchange, in a commerce situation, uh, company values, core values, missions, what makes your company, those things do still matter. And so I would like for people to consider a solution. I'm not saying that we can't protest. I'm not saying that we can't even make a big stir and make our voices heard. Those things are good. We should definitely do that. But as an entrepreneur, I'm about results. I'm about moving and shaking and making moves and going my own way, because America was built on the idea of being innovative and tapping into our ingenuity and coming up with ways to compete so that you can give your competition a run for its money. I think competition is very important. And so while all of this is happening and all of these companies are going down this road and this path toward, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's really false diversity, equity, inclusion, by the way, because they do it at the exclusion of others. But that's the futility of mind that fallen sons and daughters of Adam wholeheartedly embrace because of their sin nature. But I digress. But if this is the way people are going, right? I think that companies or individuals should push back in a more meaningful way, a way that's going to be long lasting, long after the protest is over, long after the outrage dies down. We should take notes and cues from three organizations that I want to highlight today. So, first, before I talk about that, I want to talk about how no company starts out, on day one as a $1 billion company. Every successful company and corporation started out as an idea. It started out as a thought in someone's mind. And they just chose to put hard work, and they put their mind to this thought or this idea. And then a brand or company was born. Anheuser-Busch didn't start out one day making beer and then become one of the most top selling iconic brands. No, they had to start with one glass of beer. And so companies are built brick by brick, step by step, day by day. And I think that when you truly believe in something, when you truly believe in something, it, and you're willing, when you truly believe in something, you're willing to be that spark. You're willing to be that spark, and you're willing to step out of your comfort zone and dare to be different. And I really think that's something that we should be doing now. So, Exhibit A, I want to read you something that I came across about star athlete Allison Felix. If you don't know who Allison is, she is an American track star. This girl is bad. She is highly decorated in terms of winning medals and just crushing it in her sport. Allison was the brand ambassador for Nike at one point. And like most women, or they're presented with the dilemma of, I want to be a mom, but I have this athletic career and I don't want to sacrifice motherhood for the sake of my career, but I do believe that there's a way for me to do both and. Well, Allison wanted to do that, and Nike basically told her that she needed to stay in her place. They were not interested in allowing her to maintain her sponsorship level with them and that endorsement and have to just deal with a pregnant athlete. And so this is what I want to read to you about that situation that I came across recently. It says when Allison Felix became pregnant, Nike was prepared to cut the terms of Felix's endorsement by as much as 70% due to the pregnancy and told her to know her place and just run. Amid all of this, she was forced to have an emergency C section 7 months into her pregnancy because of a potentially life threatening condition, and her baby had to live for more than 1 month in a NICU. But 2 years later, she's qualified for her fifth Olympics with her daughter watching. Felix dropped Nike and created her own brand of running shoes. Felix dropped Nike and created her own brand of running shoes. She is currently running in the Olympics in Japan, wearing them under the banner of I Know My Place. With 11 medals now, she passed Carl Lewis this summer for the most track and field medals by an American in history. Quote, I used my voice and built this company for you so that you never have to train at 4:30 a.m. while you're 5 months pregnant to hide your pregnancy from your sponsor. I read that little blurb about Allison Felix, and it's older. It's from last August of 2022 because I thought it was so interesting. As I explored and as I'm sitting back watching what's happening with Anheuser-Busch, I realized that here's a woman that she has this sponsorship with a major brand. And, she could have protested and, begged everyone to, get on the bandwagon with her and say this is not fair. And I'm not saying it's not fair. I think what happened to her was totally wrong. But instead of just doing this, she was like, I'm going to get into action. And her brother started their own brand of shoe. So to make a long story short, after the Nike deal fell through, she ended up getting an endorsement deal from another athletic company. However, they didn't make the spikes that she needed to use to run with. So she's like, well, how this company is sponsoring me, but they don't even make the shoe. Like I can't even rock the paraphernalia of the sponsor that has taken me on. And so I just want to read something really quick. It says, following that victory, the victory of her winning another sponsorship, Allison was faced with another dilemma. What racing spikes was she to wear as she pursued a place on her fifth Olympic team? So in January of 2019, she became Athleta's first ever sponsored athlete. This was the first time she felt seen as more than an athlete. But Athleta, and I hope I'm saying that right, y'all. Y'all can tell I don't run unless somebody's chasing me. So they didn't make racing spikes for Olympic sprinters. So alongside her brother, Wes, Allison decided to found a brand to be the solution to her problem, a brand designed to embody the values they were hoping to see in others and a platform to take their message to the world. Sayish was born, and I hope that's the way I'm saying it. Sayish, not sure. Either way is cute, was born to undermine inequality on behalf of women. It starts here. Keep going. I absolutely loved this story. This young woman, she is married, by the way, created a brand. She is a woman and it's for women. And one of the things that makes this brand stand out is that they have a maternity return policy. I've never heard of a thing called maternity returns. What was so unique about this is that they recognize that when you're pregnant, your feet tend to grow as much as a whole size bigger. Listen, I've got 4 children and I ain't gonna tell you what size I used to wear, and I'm not gonna tell you what size I wear now, but just say my feet grew two sizes. Like with each pregnancy, my foot either grew a half a size or a whole size larger. So she goes, when women become pregnant, their shoe size often increases by half a size or more. And the change tends to be permanent. That can make for an uncomfortable 9-month term. Women have shouldered the cost of that discomfort for too long. Say-ish was founded in response to inequality in the world of athletics. But you don't have to be a 7-time Olympic champion like our founder, Allison Felix, to feel the persistent legacy of inequality women deal with today. That's why for every say-ish one customer that becomes an expectant mother, you can contact us directly and we'll send you a free pair of Say-ish One sneakers in your new shoe size. Listen, that is innovation. That is caring about your customer. That is thinking about, that is literally all things. I have my end customer in mind. Her customer base is women athletes to be specific, but the shoes that she make are not just geared for women. No, this video is not sponsored by them. I don't know these people, but I like highlighting people who are like, yes, this is a problem. Yes, it was wrong. It was an injustice done to me, but I'm going to do something about it. And in true capitalistic fashion, she's going to make some money on the back end and win all the way to the bank. She's going to win on the track. She's winning. She's winning. So that was my first success story. Okay. They don't make spikes. She created her own shoe. That is freaking brilliant to me. Okay. Exhibit B. I mentioned the SBC, which is the Southern Baptist Convention, that, they are veering further and further away from orthodoxy, not each individual local church, but I'm just talking about the convention in general, by embracing ideologies and just unbiblical positions that cannot be defended. The other organization that I want to highlight is the G3 Church Network. Now, while G3 Church Network, it is not a denomination. They never set out to be that. But when all of these things started coming down the pipeline, G3 said, you know what? Okay, the SBC is walling out. There are going to be a lot of churches who are going to pull their membership and support from the SBC. We need to have a place for them to go because they could easily run to another denomination. I don't know what that would be, particularly if you're a Baptist. There's not really anywhere else for you to go. But who says that we actually have to have a denomination? What you need, churches need to band together and support around common values, theological sticking points, the thing that we're going to plant our flag and come hell or hot water, we are not going to be shaken. The G3 Church Network did the very same thing that we are seeing in corporate America. They're like, you know what? It is admirable to want to stay on the front lines within the SBC and fight back. I think that's admirable, and I think we should be doing that. But I also believe we can do both and. We can do that, but we need to be forward thinking and build coalitions of like-minded local churches, because it's all about the local church. Not get it twisted. The SBC didn't become the big Eva monster that it is overnight. This happened over time. Power and money and politics clouded the judgment. And so while this is a very long-standing organization within the fabric of this country, we can't be surprised when things like this happen, right? We cannot be surprised that they're going to move away from their first love, and biblical fidelity would be called into question, and women pastors might actually be a thing now. The G3 Church Network exists to be a place where local pastors and local churches can go to be supported. Let me read you this. They literally exist to equip local churches and be a network for local churches. As the days grow dark and larger denominations within evangelicalism continue to capitulate on large theological matters. The formation of a G3 church network has continued to become one of our ministry goals in order to overcome some of the ministry challenges of isolation and spiritual fatigue. So let me just read you some of their goals. Number one, theological fidelity and accountability. We know that at the convention level, that is missing within the SBC. There have been many fights, the fight for biblical inerrancy, the fight for, complementarianism, the social justice, the Nashville statement. There have been so many battles that have been fought over the years, but one of them, theological fidelity and accountability, that is huge. That is huge. So that is one of their goals. They've got many. I won't read them all, but one of the other ones that they are rallying around is to unite around common doctrine and values. Like either doctrine matters or it doesn't. Either we know what a woman is or we don't. Either we believe that Christ is building his church and he has set and established an order and structure for it, or we don't. Lastly, one of their ideals are church planting. They understand that local churches matter, and the best way to evangelize this nation is to have strong, solid churches planted in church deserts and in areas where there is not a lot of sound doctrine being preached. So planting churches is very important. I personally, I like the philosophy of churches being small by design and focusing on discipleship and not numerical growth. Maybe a lot of these churches that are leaving the SBC, they don't feel seen because unless you're a Saddleback, right? Or an Elevation Church who I don't, if I'm not mistaken, Stephen Furtick is SBC, which is so weird to me. I don't even know how that is possible, but he is. But the local First Baptist of Sugar Creek, they don't feel seen anymore. They're sending their money to give support for missions, but when it comes to theological fidelity and accountability and uniting around common doctrine and values, maybe they don't feel that that's happening anymore. So what G3 Ministries has done is create the G3 Church Network. So I wanted to take a moment to just applaud that effort and not saying what it makes sense to see what's going on in the culture. I believe that the Bible gives us wisdom to kind of pay attention, and we can use biblical wisdom to figure out we are existing in this space. How can we do it in a God honoring way? Be innovative. We can shout and fuss and fight and moan and groan about what's going on in the SBC all day long. We should do that. You have to do that. But in the meantime, you might want to be over here forming alliances with other churches that are going to stand strong with you to help fight against the cultural battle that we're in. Now, with the two examples that I gave, all of these companies, or one's a company and one's an organization, they had something in common. They didn't like what they were seeing. They didn't want to continue giving their money, their time, their gifts, and their resources to a company or organization that didn't value them and that no longer aligned with their values, and they did something about it. So what about you? Now, I'm not saying you need to be, the next hot soft drink, on the market, but is something stopping you from doing that? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that you need to splinter off and start your own denomination. What I'm saying is that when we see things like this happen, we need to consider if we can be more effective for future generations. Because think about it. Anheuser-Busch started as one little company, and it's been around for generations. We we come up with solutions. We fight back, but we come up with solutions because we understand that it's not just about us. We have future generations coming behind us, and we don't want to leave this world in the same way. We don't want to just leave it in shambles. And so it takes one person to have an idea and to say, I may not even see the fruits of this labor, but I'm doing this for those who are coming up behind me. There are pastors and shepherds and elders that have not been born yet. And I believe the fruit of what the G3 network is doing now is going to be seen well after Pastor Josh Spice and Virgil Walker are long gone. That's what it's about. That is what's most important. It's bigger than you. You're not doing it for you. You're doing it for your progeny, for your descendants that are going to come after you. When you truly believe in something, you're willing to be the spark. You're willing to be the change that you want to see. You're willing to be the cornerstone that lays that foundation because you realize that it is bigger than you and that it's not about you. So, what's the solution? Instead of demanding that these groups, stop conforming to the culture, because many of them, it doesn't appear that they're going to stop, right? They're doing it, and it's winning them brownie points, and they're getting some gains from it. But instead of yelling and screaming and protesting, I think we should innovate, create our own spaces, and support those. What's wrong with establishing a parallel economy? I don't think there's anything wrong with establishing a parallel economy. If there are brands that you are loyal to, that you've been supporting for years, and you see them going in a direction that no longer aligns with you, find one that does, right? Like, you can switch your cell phone service from AT&T to Patriot Mobile, right? You don't have to buy your sheets from Bed Bath and Beyond or Macy's. You can go to My Pillow. You can take your money, take your business where you feel it's going to be valued and that's going to serve you better. So that's my take. What do you think? Do you think, April, that sounds nice, but everybody, can't start a company from scratch? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There's nothing stopping you from starting a company from scratch. Now, I didn't say it was going to be easy. It's going to take some hard work. Oh, it's laborious, but is it worth it? They're working hard to shove these ideals down your throat. Why can't you work hard to create opposing viewpoints and opposing ideas and create a company that espouses those ideas and those values and push back that way? In the end of the day, the market is going to decide. So don't participate. Find a way or make your own. Grayson?